Welcome to this tutorial brought to you by River City Graphics. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can create a Facebook icon in Photoshop. So to get started, we're going to open up Photoshop. Then we're going to create a new document that's 500 pixels by 500 pixels. Click OK. Once we have that, we're going to go down to the rounded rectangle tool. And we're going to select that, and then we're going to make sure that we have a radius of 40 pixels selected. Then I'm just going to hold Shift and draw out a rectangle. Alright, now that we have that done, what I'm going to do is go to my selection tool and select this and make sure that Show Transform Controls is on. Click on the corner and then go up here, and if it's not in pixels, right click and put it in pixels. And then we're going to set this to 235. But first, before doing that, you want to make sure you click this little button right here. It looks like a chain to constrain the proportions. So we're going to say 235 and hit enter. So once we have that done, we can just click the little checkbox. And now we're ready to get started with the base of our icon. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to change the color of this, and we're just going to take and make this a color we're going to take and put in the hex code of 3052A0. Okay, so it's a nice kind of medium purple. So we're just going to click OK. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this by dragging it down to the new layer icon. And then we're just going to take and click on the corner, hold Shift and then hold Alt, and it's going to allow us to take and drag this in. And so we're just going to drag it in enough to have a slight border on that shape, or a slight border from the shape below it, so that it appears that there's a border. So once you have that done, you can just click the check mark to apply that, and then we're going to change the color of this. So what we're going to put the hex code at for this one is 8094C0. Alright, so it's a medium purplish color. We click OK. Alright, now the next thing that we're going to do is again duplicate this layer, and then we're going to make it even smaller. Now again, hold Shift and Alt and just scale that down. So about the same for the border on that one. So once you're done with that, just click the check mark, and then we're going to make this another different purple. So just double click on this little swatch over here, bring up your color, and then for the hex code of that one, we're going to take and we're going to have 0B3A7. Alright, so we have a nice more vibrant purple for the middle. Alright, so now that we have that, we're ready to get started with creating the F for the Facebook icon. So the way that we're going to create the F is by going over to our text tool, and once we have that selected, we're just going to go and select Arial as the font, and then we're going to select bold for that font. So once you have that, you're just going to make sure it's on white, and then you're just going to click out at about 200 point font, and we'll just type out an F, a lowercase f. So let's click OK, and then I'll just drag this down here. So there's a couple of differences between this F and the Facebook F that you see on most icons. So we're going to have to change this up a little bit in order for it to be correct. So the first thing we need to do is to make it a little bit bigger. 200 was a good starting point, but we're just going to need to size it up a little bit. And once we have that, we need to compress it a little bit down. Okay. So once we have that done, we're probably about right on the size, maybe a little bit smaller. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is we'll just click and accept that change. The next thing we need to do is we need to make this a little bit bigger, this crossbar of the F. So we're just going to take and rasterize this text layer. So we're going to right click and go to rasterize type. So now it's no longer editable, but we can still take and edit it with any of our other tools besides the type tool. So we're just going to take and I'm just going to select out a path here, and we're just going to make this a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this out, and we'll put it right about there. So you're just making it a little bit taller and a little bit wider. So once you have that, you can go to Edit, Fill, and then you can select Color. We'll put it on white, so all Fs. Click OK, and OK again, and you can see that it has filled that area. So now that's all on one layer. So the next thing that we need to do is on the F that you usually see for Facebook, the end is a little bit, it's cut off, it's flush to the crossbar, and then we also have more of a 90-degree right here. It's more up and then straight over. So we'll leave the curve in there, but we do need to take and extend this a little bit out and then have it cut off. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm just going to zoom in, holding Alt and just using the mouse wheel. So the next thing that we need to do is we're just going to take, and I'm just going to draw it out like this, get about a pretty good estimate with that, and then we can just take and we can fill that with white. So I'm just going to go to Edit, Fill, and we're going to fill it with white. Again, go to Color, White, as in all F's, click OK, OK again. You can see that it filled it pretty well. So now we just need to do a little bit of touching up, and you can just grab your brush tool and we can fix it up from there. So I'm just going to get a brush with a hardness of 100, so that's a nice rough brush. And we can just take, and I'm even going to zoom in a little bit farther, and we just want to round out this curve a little bit. Now you can use the pen tool to do a little bit nicer, but I just used a selection, so you just need to round it out a little bit more with your brush tool, so you should be alright. Okay. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to erase this part out here. So for the bottom part, I'm just going to grab the eraser and just erase off the bottom. And then for the rest of it, I'm just going to grab the selection tool, and I'm just going to cut off the end that overlaps right there. So you can see that we have it right flush up against that, and it looks very nice. So I'm just going to do Layer via Cut, and then I'm just going to delete that piece. Then we have just the F. It's all nice and 90 degreed right there. So I'm just going to zoom out to something just a appropriate distance. We're at 110. So you can see that we've done a little bit of work to our F, and it's looking much more like the Facebook F. So a little bit more work, you might be able to get it a little bit closer, but for right now I think that's a good starting point. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add the highlights on the icon. So the way that we're going to add these highlights is by first taking and creating a new layer. Then we're going to go over to our elliptical marquee tool. Then we're just going to drag out an oval shape, and then we're going to hold the space bar, and we can take and position that around where we want. Now we want it to be over about the top third of our icon. And once you have it about where you want, you can just let go. So we're going to go up to Edit, Fill, go to Color, and then we want it to be on white, so put all F's in the hex code or just drag it up here to the corner. Click OK. OK again. And now you can see it filled it with white. So we're just going to deselect. And the next step is to take and make sure that this white only goes over the icon and not outside like it is now. So in order to do that, we're going to go back down to the very bottom layer of our icon. Hold Control, click the little gray rectangle in order to create a selection of the shape of that layer. Then go back up to your oval layer, right click with your marquee tool, and go to Layer via Cut. So now you can see there are two pieces to our icon. So we want just the piece that's over the top to still be there, so we can just delete the other piece. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to lower that piece to 25% opacity. So I'm going to put it at opacity 25. Hit enter, and you can see that we have a nice highlight over the top. So the next part is that we're going to add a radial highlight towards the bottom, so it's just going to be kind of glowing up from the bottom. So the way that we're going to do this is by first creating a new layer. Then we're going to fill that layer with white. Now if you don't have your layers on white, you can take and right here you can click on this little default colors, and you can take and then switch them by clicking this little arrow so that you have your foreground color as white. So then you're just going to press Alt Delete to fill your foreground color with white. And then we're going to create a layer mask, and we need to do that by clicking this little button down here at the bottom of your layers. There's a little rectangle with a white circle in the middle. Just click that and it will add a layer mask. Now make sure that you have that mask selected by clicking on it. It's the one on the right. Then go over to your gradient tool. We're going to go up and make sure we have the color selected as white on the left and black on the right, so a white to black gradient. Click OK, and then we're going to go right from the center of our layer, hold Shift and go right to the edge and release. And you can see that we have now a white glow coming from the center going out in a radial way. Also make sure that you have your gradient selected as radial rather than linear. Make sure it's radial, which is the second one over, because it won't work if you don't have that selected. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to size this down. So I'm just going to click over onto our layer. So you want to make sure you're off of the layer mask and onto the layer, so it's the icon on the left. Then we're just going to grab the selection tool and just scale this down. So we can just take and scale that down, make it a little bigger, and we can just position it around where we want, probably right about there in the center. Alright, so we're just going to click OK, or click the little check mark to apply that. Now what we're going to do is basically the same thing, where we need to clip it to just the icon, and we're going to clip it to the center rectangle rather than the whole thing this time. So we're going to go to the center rectangle, and we're going to hold Control, click the gray icon in order to get that selection. Then we're going to go back up to our layer mask icon, or our little glow that we have going on there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and go to Select and then Inverse. Then we're going to make sure we're on the Marquee tool, right click, Layer via Cut, and then it's going to kind of freak out a little bit, but you just delete that piece, and you can see that we have a nice glow coming from the bottom. So what we're going to do with this is we're just going to take and we're going to put it down to about like 40 opacity. So we can take it and put it at like 40, 41 maybe. And you can see that that just gives it a nice little back glow on our icon. So as you can see, we have a pretty nice Facebook icon going on here. You might be able to change up the colors, change up the glow or the highlight a little bit. Maybe spend a little more time on the F, see what kind of effect you can get, but this should get you started at least. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.